KNSI back with Taking You Home, VoigtJohnson Real Estate. Heidi Voigt and Brandon Johnson. Brandon is with us, and what are we talking about today, sir?
Current inventory levels here in St. Cloud, central Minnesota area.
Well, all that I can tell you is that inventories are tight.
Yes.
Right?
And we're really starting to see more of a two-tier inventory level, and what I mean by that is based on price points. We've talked about in the past ad nauseum how buyers buy a payment,
right.
And that sort of topic. But really, the price points between 150 to 300,000, which I would consider kind of the starter level homes right now, is so much dramatically more scarce than homes above 500 to 750,000.
All right, now I know that you've got things that you want to get to, but my question would be, any advice for first-time home buyers to be able to afford that? I mean, $150,000 to $200,000 to $300,000. That's a fairly good gap.
Yes.
Right. So if folks want to be able to have a nicer home the first time around, are there some things that they really need to do?
I would say above everything, the number one thing I'd recommend is to sit down with a lender,
Okay.
Locally preferably, and get all the options. A lender that can provide a number of different options, whether that's buy downs. I want to say what's been considered out of context taboo, a variable interest rate, but there
Sure.
are different types of products that
You mean
make
like a 5-1 arm?
Yeah, and,
Okay.
and there's even 10-1 arms
Okay.
that presuming interest rates are going to be lower in the next few years. Know your options from a lender standpoint is the most, the best thing a first-time home buyer can be
do.
educated with.
Yeah. So last week you made everybody understand that you are not a tax professional.
Correct.
You are also not a
Correct.
lender. Okay.
Correct.
You are a realtor.
Correct.
Okay. So keep going.
So essentially here in St. Cloud, we talk about absorption rate.
Mm-hmm.
And the absorption rate is months supply. And so what that means is how many months supply, if there's a balanced market, a balanced sellers and buyers market is somewhere between, that plus or minus 5 months supply of homes. Right now in St. Cloud and surrounding areas, for homes between 150,000 and 300,000, the month supply is 0.82 month supply, less than 1 month supply. And what that means is if no other homes came on the market, how many months would it take for those, theoretically, homes to sell? So less than 1 month supply, which is a strong, strong seller's market.
Yeah.
And so when you contrast that to 500,000 and up, 500,000 to $750,000 price point, the absorption rate is almost 7 months supply, 6.9 months supply. So there's quite a big difference in that.
What does that mean down the road for realtors? I would think that there are far more first-time home buyers that may be out there chomping at the bit than there would be with a higher-end home. True? False?
Yeah, it depends. That is true. I think from our perspective at VoigtJohnson, we have always focused, a lot of people will be strictly buyer's agents, strictly seller's agents, focus on different price points. We try to be a resource and service everybody because the market is always fluctuating. What I would say, given this disparity based on the $500,000 homes and above, you say, okay, why is that discrepancy so great? And if you look at the first-time home buyer, their alternative is renting, and rents are increasing faster than interest rates. So they really don't have any options. So that same demand is not going away. Where you're losing a little bit of the buyer pool is the people that own a $275,000, $300,000 home that are moving up.
Right.
And they're saying, I don't want to give up my 3.25% interest rate to move up.
Yeah.
And so that's putting pressure on the amount of homes in the 250 range that are being listed, as well as it's a reduced buyer pool in the $500,000 and plus. So then I say, okay, who is generalizing? Who is the buyer pool for that $500,000 home and plus?
Right.
And I would say a lot of it is people coming out of the area, not all, but a lot of that. If you're saying if you're listing your home at $600,000 and you're saying who is the potential buyer for that?
Right.
I would say a lot of it you have to cater to an out-of-state buyer, an out-of-town buyer coming to town for employment.
How do you guys do that? How do you reach out to that person out there?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head, is you got to say, okay, if I'm a seller, what do I need to do to make sure my home is marketable to a potentially an out-of-town buyer? And from my opinions, and there's lots of good explanations, I think if a family's coming out of town, one spouse is coming here for employment.
Sure.
The other one's got so much on their plate, putting the kids in school. They want a move-in ready home.
Absolutely.
Everything done, not having to worry about, painting, carpeting. They don't want to have that extra burden because they've already got so much else on their plate.
Yeah.
The other thing is they're not familiar with the neighborhoods, the areas, the school, and all of that. So having information as simple as drone aerial shots showing the neighborhood, having resources for the neighborhood.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other things to make them aware of, give them options to educate them about different neighborhoods where you might not have to spend that amount of energy with someone that's lived here for 20 years.
Marketing is very important.
Correct.
Right.
And so that's how we extrapolate, okay, this is what the data's saying, this is how we interpret it, and then gauge our activities for our clients in specific price points.
All right, I'm thinking, that $500,000 house, maybe those prices, the value of the houses may still be, I don't like to use the word artificially high, but when you look back at what was happening when interest rates were so low, people could literally name their price on their house.
Yeah, and that craziness has kind of subsided a little
Has
bit.
it?
But I'll tell you, there is still homes in nice locations that show well,
Yep.
and no matter what price point, are still very sought after and still getting competing offers a lot of times.
Well, listen, a nice home, a nice neighborhood, raising your family, you can't put a price on that.
Correct, and I think what we have going for us here in the St. Cloud area is a very strong jobs market.
Yeah.
And that's what housing always comes down to, is jobs.
Folks, this is Taking You Home with VoigtJohnson Real Estate. Brandon Johnson, our guest this time around. Don't forget, Taking You Home every Thursday morning, 7:23, Saturdays at 7:50 in the morning here on KNSI. Start that home search at VoigtJohnson.com. Taking You Home with VoigtJohnson Real Estate. Thank you, Brandon.
Thanks, Bob.
AM 1450, FM 99.3, KNSI.